For those of you who do not know me, I'm Dan McGrath. I'm the Maryland Federation President for the National Association of Active and Retired Federal Employees. In Maryland, we have over 300,000 federal employees and retirees. As you'll notice, our attendance is a little low today. We have a lot of our own members who are already doing the snow dance. Several people who have just come in have indicated they're going into a little bit of sleep in parts of the state, especially west of us, and a little bit of snow flurries south of us coming up from St. Mary's County. So the other thing that might be causing them to decide to stay home, other than possible safety, is we are web streaming this. We're also going to have it on YouTube. So the rest of the folks throughout the state, as well as particularly in this district, which is District 4, will have access to everything that goes on tonight, either live or after the fact. So with that, what I want to do is everybody could stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is over here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, since 1921, the National Active and Retired Federal Employees Association.
Dan, turn the mic so you speak into it.
Is the only organization that exclusively devotes itself to the protection of our earned benefits of federal employees, retired civilian employees, and their annuitants and survivors. Membership is open to civilians in any agency of the federal government, including retirees, current employees, spouses of current employees or retirees, and former employees who are eligible for a deferred annuity, as well as survivors eligible to join NARFE. With that, what I'd like to do is turn this over to our first Vice President, Gary Roundtree.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
The purpose, I'm here to give the distinguished order for the purpose of this forum. This is a political forum that is non-biased, non-partisan, and treats every person position on topics equally. This debate forum is not aligned to any political party. In today's politics, many ideas are split between and even within all the political parties. Often we find ourselves agreeing on one platform, but some topics break our mold. We are here to discuss them in a civil, political debate. If this is your first visit to our political forums, be sure to check out the frequent asked questions and rules. Thank you. And now allow me to introduce our timekeepers for today's debate forum. We have on my right, Dr. Bruce Fowler, and we have on my left, Dr. Raja Mahaja will be our timekeepers for today's forum. And also, please allow me to introduce to the candidates our moderator for this day's debate. Chapter 1936, President and moderator for today's forum, Miss Barbara Coffey. And And I will now turn this over to our moderator, Ms. Barbara Coffey, that she may present the ground rules for today's forum debate.
Welcome, everyone. We are certainly glad to have you with us today. I'm going to, first of all, introduce each of the candidates to you. And starting from the left, I would ask each candidate to just stand and then sit, and the next person, so forth. Mr. Terry Strait, Ms. Jocelyn Pena-Melnick, Mr. Warren Christopher, Mr. Anthony Brown, Mr. Glenn Ivey, and Mr. Matthew Paul.
Morning.
Okay. Now let me just say that to make the best use of our time, we're going to ask that you not clap or show any reaction to the responses you hear. You might smile if you want to, because that's silent. But we don't want to interfere, and we don't want people to think, oh, there were more applause behind this person than the other person. We will not be taking any questions from the audience. This is being videotaped and streaming live, and you will be able to get the URL for that, I guess, so that you will be able to later look at it when you get home. Let me see if there are any other. You will see the timekeepers wave a flag. Can you show them the flag? The timekeepers will wave a flag and will let the candidates know that they have 30 seconds left to answer a question. And if they don't stop in 30 seconds, you'll hear the gavel. And the candidates will be able to finish the sentence, not the paragraph. Okay. We think that this is a great opportunity for you to learn from the candidates, their positions, and I'm sure I won't have to admonish anybody for continually going over, because if that's the case, then you'll just cut your time on the next question. Okay? And so the timekeepers will not cut your time unless I ask them to, because you continually run over. I think that that's all clear. We will not take any official breaks. If you have to leave for any reason during the forum, please leave as quietly as possible, and if you return quietly. I don't think there is anything else. The candidates have been informed of the rules. What we're going to do to begin, give each candidate 3 minutes to introduce themselves, to tell you perhaps why you should vote for them, and to tell you their top 3 priorities. So they have a lot to do in that 3 minutes. Introduce themselves and tell you their top 3 priorities. That is the only time they will have 3 minutes to answer a question or before we begin the questioning. The way it will go is I will start from the person on the furthest left, on the left from your seat. And that person will get question number 1, and the next person will answer it and answer it and answer it and so forth. We will continually rotate around like this. The number 2 question will go to the second person. The number 3 question will go to the third person first. Is that clear to everyone? Okay, we want to give everyone a fair opportunity to answer the questions. And it'll be your job to listen, and some of you will probably be taking notes. But to get started, I'm going to ask Mr. Terry Strait. The time starts once you begin talking. All right, so they will have 3 minutes to answer the first, to introduce themselves, and then 90 seconds for each question. And at the very end, each candidate will have a chance to do a closing sentence, a closing statement. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank NARFE for hosting this forum, and everyone who's taken time out of their busy schedules to be here today and be informed voters, because that's very important, is knowing who you're voting for. My name is Terrence Strait, and I'm seeking to represent you in District 4. And I'm a relative newcomer to politics. I was in the Army for 4 years, and then I went to school, got my bachelor's and my master's degree in psychology, and then I worked as a statistician for the Census Bureau for 3 years. So this is relatively new to me. But one one thing that I've noticed is missing from our national political discourse is a focus on planning for the future. A lot of people want to talk about what they're going to do right now or what they're going to do in the next election cycle, but we don't hear a lot of planning for what's going to happen 10, 20, 50 years down the line. And that's part of the reason that we see a lot of the problems that we see today. We don't do appropriate planning for taking care of our environment. So we are talking, instead of stopping global warming, how low can we keep it? Can we keep it down to 2 degrees or 3 degrees in the next century? We don't talk about the problems of automation. And that's something that my generation is going to see a lot of, where pretty much any job out there can be automated. If you look at countries around the world, you see supercomputers that are doing the work of doctors and even doing better diagnostics than doctors are. You see hotels that are completely staffed by robots. So I think that's something that we need to look at is how are we going to plan for the world of the future and how are we going to take care of future generations? One thing that I've learned working for the federal government is that federal employees are very much subject to the whims of Congress. It's something I learned when we had the shutdown in 2013. It's something that I learned again when we had the threat of a shutdown in 2014. And people cannot live with that kind of uncertainty. If they get sent home and they don't get paid for 2 or 3 or a month, those bills don't go away. So I think we need a Congress that is actively doing their jobs and is, putting together a budget when they're supposed to. But I think we also need to start planning for how are we going to work around obstructionism? How are we going to keep members of Congress who don't want to govern from holding our federal employees hostage? How are we going to make sure that employees aren't being asked to contribute more and more to their retirement accounts? And I think that focus on the future and that big picture vision is what I bring to this race, and I hope that you all consider me. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jocelyn Pena-Melnick, or Jocelyn. It's a very long name. You'll remember the hyphenated name. And I came to this country when I was 8 years old with my mom. My mom was a single parent. She came here to the States with my sister and I. My mom did not even study till the 3rd grade, but education was important to her. She was on social services for a while, on Section 8. She was on food stamps as well. I remember going to the office with her to help her translate. I learned early on that an education was important. Although she wasn't educated, she always told me that an education was important. I'm first to graduate college in my family, and I stand here in front of you knowing what an education does to an individual, and about the choices that an education gives to you. I know for the last 9 years I've been a state delegate. I've been representing Prince George's County and Anne Arundel County, which are the counties that make up the 4th district. I know the families in the 4th. I know the families in Prince George's and Anne Arundel. I know the issues. I know income inequality, that we need to work hard. That's one of my priorities, to make sure that we reduce that gap, that we create jobs, that we put money into the infrastructure. That's how you create jobs. That we give businesses credits, minority businesses preferences as well. I know about education because I have 3 children that are in the public school system here in Prince George's County. One is a senior, so I am going through right now how I'm going to pay for it, because he's a senior and he's going to be going to the University of Maryland. But I don't do anything easily. I have a set of twin girls that are 15. I have all 3 in high school, which means that I will have them all in college. So I am thinking, my husband and I, how we're going to pay for it. So I know the issues well. I have sat on the health committee for the last 9 years. I'm the chair of the Public Health and Minority Disparity Committee. I know the issues well. I know the importance of protecting Obamacare. I know that the Republicans have tried to repeal it 63 times. And if you vote for me on April 26th, I will fight hard for you. I will make sure that I'm a strong voice to protect, make sure that it's not repealed. I will fight hard for you for Social Security, to make sure that it's not privatized, to make sure that the rich pay more, because it's not fair. I will fight for you to make sure the age is not increased. I stand here in front of you, having been the only candidate of anyone up here that has received the endorsement of the American Federation of the Government Employees. We all interviewed. They chose to endorse me because for 9 years I have voted to protect the middle class. I have voted with labor unions to make sure that your retirement is protected. I will be honored to have your vote on April 26th. No one's going to fight for you like I will. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Good. Hey, you all, I'm retired Colonel Warren Christopher, and I've served our country and our Army for over 24 years, all around the globe, defending the freedoms that we enjoy here at home today. I've served in the United States Congress and the Senate Armed Services Committee, the Small Business Committee, and the Veteran Affairs Committee. I've led the Department of the Interior as a senior executive, the business enterprise of the federal government, overseeing more than $57 billion in procurement and acquisitions. The thing that I'm most proud of is I raised my 2 daughters as a single dad. Brittany, 29 now, she attended Morgan State University, and she is now a small business owner in the Baltimore area. My youngest daughter, Ashley, she attends Hampton University, and she's in her 3rd year studying physical medicine. You all, this is some real choices. We have real choices to make about the defense of our country. You know, when we talk about protecting Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, I absolutely believe that. But this is about looking forward. This is about making sure that we can create good paying jobs for the people that are coming behind us. Jobs in cybersecurity, jobs in energy, jobs in rebuilding our infrastructure and in coding. This is about making sure that we're protecting our seniors and honoring our seniors, the people that built this country, whose shoulders we stand on today. This is about making sure that we have support for our veterans. You all, a lot of people spew a lot of rhetoric about our veterans, but we have still thousands of homeless veterans right here in this district. And I think that is a shame, because those are the men and women that stood on freedom's frontier, protecting the very freedoms that we enjoy here, protecting the way of life of Americans. They fight on the front lines, but they come home to the end of the line for responsive medical treatment. They come home to the end of the line for affordable housing and for good-paying jobs. That's what I want to champion for you. I'm the candidate that has led in federal government. I retired in 2011, and I became a senior policy advisor at FEMA. I left the Federal Emergency Management Agency and was selected to be the Chief of Staff at the Department of the Interior, where I did oversee business enterprise. The thing that I am grateful for is the opportunity to lead our American men and women into combat, and under my leadership, 7 different times, I brought every soldier home alive. I am very proud that God gave me the wisdom and the courage and the leadership to lead in our country, to lead in my family, to lead in the federal government. The things that I want to do is to make sure that our federal employees, particularly when it comes to federal annuitants, that you're not penalized because you're drawing Social Security and you're a federal annuitant. Just like in Veteran Affairs, we're able to draw our retirement and we're able to draw our disabilities concurrently. That's the kind of legislation that I want us to introduce to make sure that our transportation benefits are not cut or that they're not taken away, to help get cars off the streets. Thank you all very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Brown, and I'm also a candidate for the 4th Congressional District. Let me start this afternoon now, for thanking NARFE for not only hosting this event, but I want to thank you and your members for your commitment to public service, whether you're in the Postal Service, at the DOD, or any one of a number of federal government agencies. You are the men and women that make government work and work effectively on behalf of the American public. I think each of us here today have something in common, and we have served at one time or another in federal government, although I don't know if I would have been eligible for membership in NARFE, because mine was DOD military, and I don't think that I would have been eligible, but certainly would have loved to have joined if I could have. I'm running for Congress because I believe that we've got wonderful communities throughout the 4th Congressional District, in Prince George's County and Anne Arundel County, but I'm running because I believe that we need to strengthen these communities. And there are 3 priorities that I focus on when I think about how we strengthen communities in order to ensure that we are strengthening and supporting families. First, we strengthen communities by ensuring economic security and jobs opportunities for more. That means a lot of things to a lot of different people. Some it means protecting Social Security and Medicare, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that during today's conversation. For some, it means increasing the minimum wage, passing a living wage for men and women who are out on construction sites, protecting and expanding prevailing wage. For others, it means equal pay for equal work, paid sick leave. I think for most, it means creating more family-supporting jobs in our communities, investments in infrastructure, and ensuring more federal contracting right here in the 4th Congressional District. I think we'll strengthen our communities when we provide greater educational opportunities. And again, even there, that means different things for different people. For some, it means greater investments in early childhood education, pre-K education for our 4-year-olds. For some, it means more investments in career technology education, because not every child or student that's in middle school and high school is going to graduate and go on to that 4-year degree-awarding college institution. But they need something more than a high school diploma to compete for those family-supporting jobs that are being created. For some, it means incumbent workers, with our changing, evolving economy, making sure they're keeping up on the skills and the training in order to compete and stay in their job and compete for other jobs. We'll also strengthen our communities when we ensure safer neighborhoods. And we're not going to arrest and incarcerate our way to safer neighborhoods. We're going to create safer neighborhoods by ensuring we have greater opportunities both in the economy and in education. We'll support our law enforcement. We'll hold them accountable. We'll strengthen that community citizen relationship with law enforcement. Safer neighborhoods will strengthen communities.
Good afternoon. I'm Glenn Ivey. I'm former state's attorney for Prince George's County. I want to tell you a little bit about how I got to this position, that position. It really revolves around my parents. They're both from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And my father was a federal government employee for 30 years. We came out from North Carolina. They both worked in the tobacco fields, curing tobacco and the like. My father was also a brick mason. Then he joined the Air Force. And they used the GI Bill to put himself through school and come out and go to work to the federal government. There was a program called Manpower. This was part of the war on poverty that LBJ was running. And he moved his way up in the Manpower program. We were still in North Carolina. They liked the work he was doing so much that they moved him up to D.C., and we came up later. And that's how we got to this area. He worked hard as a federal government employee. He worked to try and help people get more jobs. They moved him over to HUD at one point. He helped people with housing issues. He helped to do the things that the federal government can help make happen for the public. But somewhere around 1980, things started to change about the way he was treated with his job. That was when President Reagan got elected, and the hard work that he'd been doing, and federal workers across the gamut really started to be viewed in a different way. They started pressuring people to not do the work and be more political about the decisions that were made. They started trying to restrict the types of income and COLA adjustments that federal workers had been getting. And overall, they really started doing things that really sort of badmouth federal government. The government was the problem. They want to get government off our backs, is what they said. And so as the thing started to change, I saw the changes in him as well. He decided to actually leave the federal government at one point. He got his retirement up, and he went and worked in the local federal government. They lived in Prince William County at that point. And he started helping juveniles who were in and out of trouble. But to me, the lasting impression that came away from it was he was somebody that was trying to make a difference. He committed his adult life to trying to make a difference through the federal government. But the federal government started to pull away from the commitments that it had made. And I saw it when I started working for the federal government, too. I started working for John Conyers in 1987. Later worked at the Department of Justice as a federal prosecutor. And I saw how they started cutting back on, for example, retirement. They got rid of some of the programs that were pension programs. When I got there, really all that was available was the thrift savings program on the Hill. And then they started trying to block COLAs and opportunities to get increases. In fact, I think we need legislation right now. I think there's a congressman, I believe it's Grayson is his name, that's pushing legislation to try and make sure that people get COLAs who haven't been getting them for years now. And there's also a change that we need to make in the CPI so that it reflects for elderly as opposed to just generally across, because the elderly have a different basket of goods that they buy. I'm sorry. And we need to make sure that the adjustments are reflected to help them. So I look forward to talking with you more, and I'm glad you came out today.
How you doing? My name is Matthew Fogg, and I'm running for Congress for one main reason. I want to see change up on Capitol Hill. We know that Capitol Hill is a very hostile environment. And we know that right now, even when they tell our president, no matter what bill you pass, no matter what you do, we're going to be against you. We've already heard him say that. I want to thank NARFE for having this, because certainly I did 32 years in the federal government as a federal worker, and I understand what federal workers need. But when I look at what it is that we have to do and why you need to vote for me and why we're talking about we stand here. You know, when I grew up in this area in Washington, D.C., and I saw things, a lot of things. I came up in the civil rights movement. I remember I couldn't even get in the Washington Boys Club when I was a kid because I was raised in segregation. I saw these things with my own eyes. I saw Dr. King come here. I saw all of the things that we had to deal with. And I began to realize we need people in Congress that's going to really go and do what they say they're going to do. Now, certainly running for this office, for me, as a federal worker, I had to one day make a decision whether or not I was going to take on the whole federal bureaucracy. I worked for the U.S. Department of Justice, the U.S. Marshal. I filed a discrimination complaint. I began to look across the board, and I began to say, you know, we got to have equal justice, just like we talk about women. We got to have equal pay. All of the things. I always say, whatever the ills are that we're dealing with, it should be facing all of us, not one black, not one white. When I look at our county and look at where we are today, we're at the bottom of every ills list you can think of, especially in Prince George's County. Are you talking about education? You're talking about high foreclosures? You're talking about high taxes? I mean, I could just go on and on and on. And we had legislators in Congress all during the time this was happening. I myself was a federal worker. I worked for the bureaucracy. I saw what was happening. So I had to make a decision. Do I stand there and try to go along to get along, try to pass something, get legislation through, whatever? We got the No Fear Act through Congress. Worked on it hard. After we got it through Congress, you know what happened? They mutated around it. What I'm finding now, ladies and gentlemen, is not really the legislation, it's the legislators. You guys need somebody that's going to go to Congress, that's going to blow the whistle, and is going to stand up for your rights. We're going to sit here and we're going to tell you a lot of things today, what we're going to do. Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to move this around. We're going to place this over here. We're not going to do nothing when we get up on that hill. When they tell us to get in that corner and wait for the first 2 years before you do anything as a freshman congressman, you don't do nothing. I'm sorry, I don't have 2 years to wait. I'm too old for that. So I can tell you here and now, ladies and gentlemen, we need people that's going to go to Congress, that's going to blow that whistle loud, and it's going to look out for your interest and make sure District 4 is covered. Thank you very much.
Thank all of you. Thank you all for your responses. What I'm going to do now is we're going to start questions. And we will start with Mr. Strait. Your time will start as soon as you stand to answer the question. And I would suggest, rather than walking around for these questions, since you only have 90 seconds, and it would be better for the videotaping that's going on if you would stay behind the bias there.
You want to stand or sit?
You will stand.
Okay.
Answer the questions. First question. What, if anything, would you do to enhance the viability of the Social Security Trust Fund?
That's something that a lot of people are talking about, is the viability of the Social Security Trust Fund. And there are a lot of solutions that are being put out there, and two of them that I think should just be completely off the table are reductions in benefits and increasing the retirement age. I don't believe in either one of them. Increasing the retirement age, I take a little bit more personally than other people because, you know, members of Congress, they know who votes. So whenever they talk about raising the retirement age, they're like, well, we're not going to raise it for anybody who's above 50 now. But for people who are below 50, we're going to phase in increases in that age. And, you know, as a young person, that's something that strikes me a little bit personally. Another thing that we could do is, and I think this is a better idea, is we could lift the cap on payroll taxes. Because right now, if you make $500,000 a year, you pay the same amount in terms of dollars as somebody who makes $118,000 a year. You pay a lower percentage. If you make $200,000, your actual tax burden goes down compared to somebody making 118 because less of your income is subject to that tax. Another option is to start treating capital gains as regular wages and get rid of the carried interest loophole. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that you will find that we will probably all have the same answer. But I would say that first, I will protect it and make sure that it's not privatized, because that's what the Republicans have tried for many years. In the state of Maryland, and I've been a delegate there for 9 years, we learned when we privatized the collection of child support that it did not work. And the state of Maryland had to take it back. So we learned from that lesson. I also will make sure to protect that the age is not increased. What I would do to improve its viability would be to lift the cap, as it has been stated. To make sure that the person that makes the most, that the rich pays more, because it's truly the fair thing to do. Social Security and disability insurance is relied upon by seniors and people with disability. And oftentimes, that is the only income they have. And that is what I would do. Thank you.
To make Social Security more viable, we do have to absolutely eliminate, eradicate the cap on taxable income for Social Security. We have to go a little bit farther than that. We have to create more jobs so more people are paying into Social Security. And those jobs that I want to be a part of, partnering with our business community, partnering with new entrepreneurs, partnering with incubator programs and other people in the community, we must create jobs in cybersecurity. We must create jobs in energy, whether it's renewable energy, whether it is wind energy, or whether it is solar energy. Those are opportunities for us to create manufacturing employment right here in the United States, and particularly right here in Maryland. So the more people are employed, the more people are paying into Social Security, in addition to eliminating the cap of who pays into Social Security. But look, I want to even go a little bit farther than that. I want to make sure that everyone is paying their fair share. So I think that we have to also redefine or renegotiate the formulas for Social Security to make sure that seniors does not have the burden of having to gain benefits from supplemental nutrition and assistance programs, that they can buy prescription drugs under Medicare just like we can in the VA, under the VA system at the bulk rate price.
Yeah, I don't think there's any daylight between any of us on this. I apologize for being repetitive. But I, too, not only will advocate for enhancing the viability, but also strengthening Social Security. It starts with a few things. One is make sure that we never raid or borrow from the Social Security Trust Fund to pay for ongoing government operations. So that's a non-starter. Number two is, certainly like you've heard before, I will oppose any effort to increase the retirement age. Also, which I think you heard, is changing the CPI. The cost of living adjustment for Social Security right now is based on the CPI, the cost of pricing, that's the Consumer Price Index, for urban earners. It needs to be changed to be based on the CPI for elderly Americans. If you're looking at Social Security, whether you want to increase the benefits, you should look at the basket of goods, you've heard that before, of what elderly Americans are consuming, not necessarily what urban earners. But I think also, because when you talk about strengthening the viability of Social Security, we're talking about ensuring economic security for seniors and those with disabilities. To ensure economic security for seniors, you do have to strengthen Medicare, whether it's allowing for the negotiating premiums for prescription drugs to keep those down, or also putting a cap on the increase in premiums for Medicare. These are the things in total that will help ensure economic security for our seniors.
Certainly the cap, I think, is, you've heard before, is a critical piece. I want to be clear about this. I'm talking about eliminating the cap for people over 250,000. So, in between 118, I believe it is, and 250. For folks in there, I'm not talking about adding additional FICA taxes for those folks. So if you're over 250, definitely want to catch Bill Gates in that crowd, but not in this gap between here, because those are folks who are still need, protection. Privatization, when I went to work for Congressman Conyers in 1987, the Republicans were pushing privatization already. And not only for that, but for, state pensions as well. And I just think we've seen it fail over and over and over again. We know that there's cycles that come and go with Wall Street and the stock exchange. We don't want to have people's retirement security at risk in that system. And then obviously, I think, there's a wave really across the country, and this started in 1980, as I mentioned, but eliminating pension funds and rating pension funds. Not just, the federal ones, but you've got states like Wisconsin, for example, where there are people who worked as state employees, their pensions are being cut back or reduced. In the private sector, companies are just eliminating them entirely in some instances. So people who were retired, worked for years to build that pension up, and clearly are relying on that retirement amount, is being taken away. And I think we have to protect that leg of the stool as well as the Social Security leg.
As all my colleagues have said, I agree pretty much with what everybody has said. Definitely we got to, I think, increase the amount of tax that we put on those that are making $250,000 and above. That's a no-brainer for me. Clearly, I might consider raising the retirement age, and I might consider that again. I know that when you get in Congress, there's a lot of things that are going to bounce back and forth. We're just one entity, but I would certainly be considering that. Definitely, I believe that the retirement, when you talk about jobs, you have to really increase jobs. You have to make an area where we don't have to worry about hitting the Social Security for people. We got to protect that Social Security system. So pretty much those are my things. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those answers to the questions. The next question, and we will start with Jocelyn this time and continue to rotate around. You're probably aware that Medicare does not include any vision or dental provisions. Are you planning to make any changes in the Medicare system? If so, what changes and why?
Yes, it's interesting you asked that question. Today on the floor, we voted on a provision for Medicaid for foster children. We cover their health insurance, but we do not cover their dental after a certain age. So I was the floor leader where I got up on the floor and I argued for a bill that will require coverage of dental provisions for foster children. I will do the same for Medicare as well. But what I will also do is something that we've done well at the state level, which is to negotiate premiums and to work with some of the companies for prescription to make sure that they're affordable, to reduce the co-payments, which is a big deal. I know in the state of Maryland, we created a fund that allows for seniors. We passed a bill in 2014, and it was a senior prescription drug assistance program where we work with Blue Cross Blue Shield, which was one of the biggest insurance companies in the state of Maryland, for them to put money, $4 million a year, into a fund where seniors, they were hit with a donut hole, Part D, were able to avail themselves of that fund. So what I would do basically is to work on reducing the premium, the cost of the premiums, the copay as well, and to fight for dental and other services. And we've done it at the state. It is doable when you work with the stakeholders and with the other companies.
You heard me mention this before. You all, and I'm very, very familiar with this, particularly as an executive in government. In the VA, we're allowed to buy bulk rate prescription drugs. I want to work with both Republicans and independents and Democrats alike. I want to make sure that I'm partnered with the seniors in our community so we can have our voices heard to bring about a change to be able to negotiate those prescription drug prices under Medicare as well. It was the case, but President Bush, when he was the president, he put a moratorium on it. We need to move past that and introduce that as legislation. But the other thing I think is very, very important for us to do, particularly for some of our seniors, because Social Security lifts a lot of folks out of poverty, but for many of our seniors, they still struggle. So just like right now, with the new provision in the Affordable Care Act where our young people are able to stay on their parents' insurance till age 26. I think at a particular age, when you do not have the viability to provide those services for yourself, I think that we should be able to be allowed to put our senior parents or our senior relatives on, our children's insurance to make sure that they have the options for dental, for Medicare, for Medicaid, and for any other healthcare needs for those aging parents that don't have the wherewithal to provide for those healthcare services for themselves. So what I'm saying is, I want to make sure that seniors can go on their children's healthcare insurance program to provide for those services.
Look, I believe that healthcare is a right and not a privilege, and that regardless of the manner in which you obtain health care, and there are a lot of different ways in this country. It's Medicare, Medicaid, VA's got a great system but needs some improvement, whether it's through the commercial market, individual, employer, small group. Every plan ought to provide, including Medicare, dental coverage, mental health, and physical health benefits. When we implemented the Affordable Care Act in Maryland, and we created the Health Benefits Exchange, we had options in terms of what could be included in the basic package. And in Maryland, we chose to include dental health as an option, and also to comply with federal law, mental health parity. So there are many sources of health insurance where dental, mental, and physical health are provided. They need to be provided and insured, guaranteed offering in every source, including Medicare.
About 7 or 8 years ago, there was a child who died. His name was Diamante Driver, and it was from complications from failure to get dental care. He had a tooth that got infected, and it just turned into an abscess, and it actually ended up killing the young man. So, actually, he was a boy. I think he was like 10 years old. That is outrageous. There's absolutely no reason that things like that should be happening in the United States of America today. So we need to take the steps to make sure that dental coverage is provided, especially in an acute situation like that. I think dental coverage is critical. But there's also other services that need to be applied and made available. There's a proposal floating around in Congress right now. In fact, you probably heard it in some of the presidential debates about, I'll call it universal Medicare. I think that's a step in the right direction. It's going to be hard to get there, but I think we need to kind of move in that direction as part of the Obamacare expansion as well. And then with respect to prescription drugs, I know we all have stories about that. My wife's got eye drops. The bottle about that big costs $200. It's outrageous. Being able to negotiate bulk, as was mentioned a minute ago, is absolutely top priority. It makes absolutely no sense for us to have to buy drugs that cost a fraction of the same, for the exact same drugs. You go to Canada, you get it for a fraction of the amount. We ought to be able to negotiate and get those same sorts of benefits and drugs at a reasonable price.
Again, I just want to say thank you. Certainly, my colleagues have spoken very well on the bridge thing. We talk about dental care. We talk about definitely prescription, how we get those prescription prices down, especially for seniors. You hear it all the time. Certainly, we're talking about breast. We're talking about mental health, a major issue when we talk about mental health and people in this country that have those issues and nobody's addressing them. But again, what I guess I always want to go back to is what will make us get that done, because we are where we are today. How did we get there? We do have legislators on the Hill, and how come they haven't been able to do these things? We've been talking about these things for decades. Why are we where we are? And that's what my concern is how will I go up on that hill and get people to listen? What does it take to get folks to listen? And one of the things, when you look at the example of Cruz at the Tea Party, you look at this guy, a lot of people don't like it, but he went up in there pretty much filibustering and doing everything else to make certain that somebody heard him. And I think that's what we have to understand. You need somebody going up on that hill that's going to listen to us, because we can say all of these things all we want to. Folks that get up there and they'll listen to it and say, we're not doing that. And then you got an impasse. So the other thing we have to get you, the people, to get behind us, so that we make these suggestions. We can say, certainly, this is the way to go. We need your support. and we will cry loud and spare not. Thank you.